Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi Carter, money mindset coach and guide, and I'm interviewing one of my dear clients today, Lisa Drennon. And just want to introduce her first. Lisa is an empowerment mentor. She helps courageous women post abortion trust their intuition again without external validation using the power of therapeutic aroma cognitive behavior. So, hey, Lisa, good to have
Hey,
you.
Heidi. Thank you. Good to be
Um,
here.
Yeah, I know we're wrapping up our coaching container, so I just want to take this opportunity to talk to you and get this recorded and kind of encapsulate what was your learning and what are the areas that you grew in the most during our time together. And for those of you watching this, Lisa just completed 6.5 months of coaching with me in Sacred Wealth Design, which is my private coaching container. So yeah, I'm just going to dive right in. I want to hear, your wording of what happened for you. But first, will you just share a little bit with us about what were the problems that you were facing, especially in regards to money, when we began coaching together?
I was a hot mess. Where do I start the problems? Well, I had a scarcity mindset. I had debt, over $100,000 worth of debt, and I felt like I was drowning. I had been out on disability at my 30-year career, and every time I looked at the numbers, I would just get overwhelmed. And I kept going after all these different programs to try to figure out where I was and how to resolve it.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. And had money invested in my retirement accounts, but for the life of me, I couldn't get a savings account established I followed Dave Ramsey for years. I almost became a Dave Ramsey coach. I became a financial coach and felt like an imposter syndrome, like a hypocrite. Like I can't coach people. I didn't even enjoy coaching people on money, setting
Mhm.
up budgets and things like that. Which I knew I didn't need help with a budget. And when I found you, I was like, it had nothing to do with a budget. And that word even sounds foreign to me, especially looking back at my younger self. It's like, yeah, I definitely did not need a budget. I didn't need help with a system. It was way deeper than that.
Yeah, you didn't need more constriction because that's kind of what got you into the debt in the first place, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were overwhelmed and you were 100K in debt. Tell me more about what was the daily experience you were having, like when you woke up in the morning and went through your day and then were sleeping at night. Like, what was the emotional experience that you were having with that debt kind of weighing you down and not knowing how to resolve it?
Well, there was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of nights where it was hard to go to sleep, and like I would blame it on my health, or I couldn't figure it out. And there was this disconnect with money. I was receiving money, and it wasn't, it was being allocated. Part of it was being allocated, but the other part, there was always like this restriction, like, oh, you only have X amount of dollars to do this, and you can't do this. There's no fun money, and it
Yeah.
just created this sense of loss. Like I'm working and working, and what am I working for? And I couldn't figure out why there was never enough. And I wanted to be a good steward. I wanted to implement these things. But every single time I paid debt, I was literally addicted to 0% credit cards. Every time I wanted to buy something, I would swipe a card and, oh, I have 12 months to pay that off. And then I would just play this game where I would shift it and, I'd get another 0% offer, and I would just keep moving the debt into the point where I maxed it out. I couldn't get any more 0% offers. And now I'm paying 24% in interest. And I was like, okay, I got to do something differently here. So I would get a loan for 10%. I'm like, oh, okay, so let's just move, like half this debt. So the debt never really changed. It wasn't being paid off. It was just moved around.
Right.
And every time I would want help, I'd be like, okay, just swipe, because I'll just go buy something. That'll make me feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, tell me more about kind of what created the debt in the first place. Because you said just now, like you didn't have any fun money, which when I hear that, that's a red flag for me. And I know that's a piece that we coached on. But I
Mm.
mean, anything about your experience growing up that you want to share about that scarcity, or if you don't want to share about that, just anything about the scarcity in general that you were feeling.
Yeah, no, I'm going to reveal, because reveal heals, and I know my story will help someone else.
Yeah.
Concealing it, hiding from it. I have a trust issue. My husband and I keep our money separate.
Mhm.
So, we've been together for 32 years, but it was always my money, your money. We pay these bills. So I always felt like this sense of I want to provide. I'm a giver at heart. And when my kids wanted something, I would go out and get it for them and not even worry about it. So I learned from you, from one of the amazing sessions that we did, just going back to my inner self, my inner guide, my younger self, and exploring the fact that I came from a divorced family and we went from riches to rags. My dad abandoned us, and my mom was always very restrictive, and you have to work hard, you have to do this, you have to do that, and there was no sense of enjoyment. It was always, no, we can't do this because there's not enough. So there's always this, money doesn't grow on trees, and we have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. So all this repetition,
Mhm.
and meanwhile my dad was like having lots of money and traveling and going boating and doing all these kinds of things, and it's just like, well, I want to do that. And
Yeah.
there was like no independence when it came to finances. Even though I was working hard, I was successful in my career, I was earning money. It's like the money I received, I didn't know how to treat it. It was almost like it was a stranger, and I kind of ignored it and overused it and abused it. Without, I didn't really have a relationship with money or understand that it was mine to have in abundance. So there was something missing. There was a blocker, and I didn't know what it was until I started working with you.
Yeah, and it was so interesting when you came to me. I mean, I knew immediately that I could help you, but then you enrolled with me, and then as we started kind of unraveling your history and what happened in that experience, of your dad abandoning you and him being over here with all this money and abandoning you over here, and here you are with your mom. It's almost what I saw is almost like in your being, in your identity of who you believed you were, it was almost like this compartmentalization or this separation, like money's over here and I'm over here. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely I can't even say that word right now.
Yeah.
Definitely put things in little compartments. I call them the doors to my heart. So there's the deepest, darkest doors that, I don't want to share those secrets. And money was a huge one. Like, I never told my husband about the debt until recently, until after I started working with you. And
Yeah.
it was, one of the scariest things that I did. But one of the exercises that we did is, like, you had me write down all of my debt and add it up. And I was
Mhm.
like, what, huh? Where did all this money? I had no idea how much, and I had done, I hate debt charts, but I never added up all of it. And ironically, I even have like the app Credit Karma, which will tell you exactly how much you owe. And it was like, and I would get alerts and I would look at it and be like, oh, I don't, where does that amount come from? I don't owe that much
Mhm.
money. And it never registered
Push it
because I
away. Mhm.
pushed it away. Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
nope, we're not going to talk about this now. And every pay period, I would like dread it. I would be like, oh, I gotta sit down, and I was actually bouncing checks, and I was like, I wasn't no, I wasn't being a good steward at all. I was like, I wasn't paying my bills on time. I was incurring late fees because I got to this point where it just became so overwhelming. And it's like I couldn't stop. It was on autopilot. Like, oh, we're just gonna swipe and we'll worry about it later.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like, when you had that separation with your parents and the container with your mom, you didn't have a lot of money and you weren't really given that permission to have fun with money. And so this is like this retraction, separating yourself from money even more. And and yet you became a mom, and somewhere in your huge heart, Lisa, you knew, like, I'm going to be here for these kids no matter what. Like, you made a soulful decision, and you hadn't resolved the money stuff yet, but your heart was leading the way. And there was nothing that could stop mama's heart, is kind of what I saw.
Mhm.
And, um, and so what I saw, how that like kind of played out in the finances, is like you said, you were buying things for them. It was like, we have inner guides inside of us. I hear, you have the inner child, the inner mama. We have all kinds of inner guides inside of us. But your inner mama was kind of leading the way. And she was
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna do this stuff for my kids. I'm gonna go on these vacations with my kids. And the beautiful thing is that you were truly healing the lineage
Mhm.
by being such a great mom, as well as providing for your children, not just for their needs, but also opening their experience. This is what we can do with money. Where I saw the problem that came into your actual finances is like you were getting income on a regular basis, but because you had so much unresolved trauma with money, somewhere in your mind you had learned, like, I have to really invest the heck out of my money. But what you hadn't learned is how to give yourself permission for the abundant experiences. So what I saw is like so much of your money was like too much of your money was being put into the investments, and nothing was really being given to this other side, the abundant experiences, the raising your kids, the giving your, mama helping her kids. And so, but you did it anyway, which is amazing that you were so committed. But did it hurt your finances? Yes. But it was so interesting when you finally got clarity, like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna use some of the money that well, I'll let you share what happened with that.
Mhm.
Like what ended up happening to resolve some of the debt.
Well, the most powerful exercise that we did was you had me draw what my debt looked like. We did art, and I'm not an art person. I was really excited to get the art supplies, and I thought, oh, I can't even draw a stick figure. But when you said it's like you can do abstract, I'm like, oh, I can do abstract all day long. I know it's just like painting a wall, right?
Yes.
And so I went through the modules and I did all of that, but the one most powerful exercise was, well, there was two. My favorite was when you had me do the debt and describe, like, paint what it looked like, and it looked like a big solid black wall, like a circular wall. And then you had me pull out all the things that I did with the money that I put on the credit card, and it was like, wow, that was like such an awakening. It was just like this huge, it was a huge shift for me, because I didn't blow it. I didn't use it irresponsibly. I mean, I enjoyed it. I went on vacation. I bought cars for my kids. I remodeled my home, and I just did like really tangible things.
Mhm.
And when I realized that I wasn't this irresponsible person that was just racking up credit card debt, which is something my mom had done,
Yeah.
um, like, so I wasn't like this generational curse type of thing. I really had a purpose for it. And when you had me add up my investments and told me like my net value, I was still a millionaire. So like I had all this money in retirement accounts. And when I added it all up and subtracted out the debt, I was still a millionaire. And it's just like, wait a minute, I'm a millionaire. Who knew that? I mean, like, I never knew. And I don't know why, to add up all these figures and compare it. And when you see the numbers, like I was literally just concentrating on income and expenses. And then I would do my debt snowball sheet and I would look at, and I'm like, I don't have enough money to pay this off. What can I sell? Like, like Dave Ramsey says, do the gazelle thing. Well, for 14 years, I did the gazelle thing and I still didn't, it was a heart issue. It wasn't a money issue. It was something inside of me that I didn't even know existed until I worked with
Mhm.
you. And I knew I needed it, but I didn't know how I needed it. So it was really, that was like the biggest shift. One of it, I had the two big shifts. That was a major shift.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on from that one, I mean, I feel like just watching you over the time that we worked together, like that was the biggest breakthrough that I saw. And it was so interesting. I loved doing that art. I've had so many intuitive hits that art helps with finances. Like I've used it in my coaching business throughout, but then when I really honed in on the money coaching years back, I was like, okay, how does art apply to money? And kind of what came to me is like, art frees us up to express what we cannot put into words, and it's like we can get something out there that shows the energy of what we're experiencing and what has happened. And that's one of the many beautiful things it does. But it was so interesting when I saw you get that on the page, and I could feel that you couldn't put it into words, but you got it on the page. And then once it was on the page, we could look at it and dissect it and talk about it. And then when you saw all the good that it had brought you, it seemed like just a lot of gratitude came for you for what money had given to you. But the most interesting piece, though, to me was when, you realized, oh, okay, here's my money. And if I just go ahead and pay all my debt off, I'm still a millionaire, like you just shared. But then we were talking about it, and I was like, okay, let's backtrack 10 years. Let's think about what could have happened, right? Because really, when all your income was coming in over the years, you weren't blessed to know about that you could spend money on your life and you could take care of your life and have abundant spending. And so it was just all going to the investments. But like what could have happened, and I'm just saying this for listeners, just to empower you and inspire you, how important it is to make categories in your spending plans to support your life, to support your joy, or else what's the point, right? And the funny thing that Lisa and I kind of laughed about, is like, you got the things that you wanted and needed for your life and your family. You just ended up paying more for them than if you had made categories in your spending plan and just gifted yourself with that right from the beginning. So you paid more for it because you put it on a credit card and there was interest. And then if you had chosen to go to a financial advisor instead of a money coach, because they're two very different things, right? Like money, I deal with the emotions of money, the internal problems with money, right? But because I was your money coach, I could advise you and say, what would it give you to take some money from the investments and pay off some of this debt, which a financial advisor may never tell you that, right? But they may not understand or be willing to look at the aspects, the energetics and the emotions that go into all these patterns. But really that money should have gone for those experiences in the first place. The investments were just over gifted. They were over, there was too much put into there. So that was kind of my thought about that. Any other thoughts coming up on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of, wrapped it up nicely the way, because that's exactly how it happened. And it was such a relief. It was just like, wow. And when I ended up retiring early, which I didn't think was possible. And you helped me work through that. And, when my company offered the early out, I was like, can I do this? And when I saw that I could, and I didn't have 100% support from home, it was just like, well, what does Lisa want? And, Lisa can make this happen. And then I was able to use some of that investment to pay off most of the debt,
And how much did you end up paying off total? Do you know?
50,000.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So half of it.
Yeah.
So now I owe little over 37,000, and working on a plan to, I have the plan. I need the income now.
Yeah, and that's another piece of it. Yeah. But you're also shifting careers because you retired from the job, the B job that was such a great moneymaker, but it wasn't your heart.
Right.
I mean, that's huge to retire from that and to open up a coaching business. So give yourself some time, for Pete's sake. Like it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time to build a coaching practice.
Yeah.
But tell me more about the experience when you paid off the 50K. What happened for you on the inside?
I took a couple of weeks to implement the plan that we had talked about, and I was really scared. I had a lot of fear I had to work through. And, I had to really look at that, and like, this was my money that I had invested, that I had earned. And I had to crunch some numbers and go through and say, okay, well, I ended up taking it from my Roth IRA, and I had opened that up in 1998 and basically maxed it out along with my 401k while I was working. And I had to make a few phone calls to find out, like, I was concerned about the tax implications and, paying more, like, here, this debt is costing me more money in the long run. So
Yes.
once I found out all the facts, then I was able to, I pray about it and say, okay, what do I do? And, I was going to take all of it out, but then I would have, it wouldn't have been as a financial decision. It wasn't going to be as solid of a financial decision to do it that way. So I chose to do half of it, because basically you take out your contributions and there's no tax liability. And because I'm not old enough to technically go after it, I'm only 54, I didn't have to worry about paying that 10% tax thing or any penalties or anything for taking it early, because I took my own contributions, and I still have some left in there. So I thought, wow, and that was another eye opener. It was just like such like cool. I've been like, one of my affirmations was, I am a financial genius. And I was a financial genius. And, I had implemented this and steadily did it. I mean, for most of the 24 years that I've had it, every year, but maybe 2 years, I fully funded it. So that was a very dedicated, and I always told myself, I would look in the mirror, well, you can't save a penny. Like I said, I don't have, like, I literally just started, when I started working with you, I built up my $3,000 emergency savings. And every single time I tried to build up that emergency savings account, an emergency would happen. A car would break, this would break. And now it's like, no, it's okay, because I have, I set aside 10% for fund money. And that made a huge difference for me, just to say, like, I can enjoy money, I can have fun. And it doesn't, I have to spend a lot of time or money doing that, but just enjoying what I do have and being thankful for it. And like the second thing that we worked on was my money story, like going through all of my beliefs as a kid to adult, even as an adult, and rewiring what I thought. So rewriting my money story to my old money story, writing that out. And it was like 7 pages. And I thought, oh my goodness, this goes on forever. But we spent a lot of time going through that and rewriting the new money story. And, I read that every single day, and it's condensed down to 2 pages. And I thought, wow, like, and it's beautiful, because we always focus on the negative, but when you can pull out all the good and the positive and really appreciate it, like, we had recognized money as a money guide, and who is your money guide? And my money guide is a dove. And seeing that spirit, that dove, in throughout playing and having fun and being responsible and going on trips and just really enjoying it. And then, the final thing was just my attitude towards it, like external validation or conversations like, oh, there's not enough. Well, yes, there is, because we have this budgeted. We have this, I don't like to use the word budget, but we have it allocated to do this. Like, for example, I remember in November, we have a local farm called Kelly's Apple Farm, and they make the best donuts and pies. And it's a family operated small business. And we spent $50 on a dozen donuts, a pie, and apple cider, and some other stuff. And it was like, wow, it's $50. And it's like, no, it's okay. We're going to enjoy this, because this is allocated for this specific reason, and we're going to enjoy it. And I ate every single piece of, pie and donut, and drank the cider, and enjoyed every moment of it. Whereas like last year, I would have been, oh, well, let's put this back. This is, well, all right, we won't get the donut. We'll just get the pie, and like, there was always this, got to put this back. I don't know how many times I was at the grocery store and had to put things back because there wasn't enough. And now it's like, no, this is what we have allocated. This is what we're getting. And there's a sense of joy about that.
It was so delicious, and I was just like that you gave yourself that permission to get exactly what you want, not
Mhm.
$25 worth, but $50 worth of that thing that you loved. And that's kind of what I call conscious spending. Number one, knowing what the numbers are. Here's how much income is coming in. And number two, choosing aside from, your basic needs that you need to pay your mortgage and all that kind of stuff, the rest of the money, choosing what's important to me, you know,
Right.
and giving yourself that permission to spend on that. And it is so different for every person. Oh my goodness, depending on their values, depending on what they like to do with their time, depending on their lifestyle. And so that's that part. But the new money story, I'll just share for anyone listening. That's really the first two steps I do with clients. First, I introduce them, I take them on a meditative journey where they meet their money spirit guide. And I just think of the money spirit guide as a symbol that God drops down into your brain so that you can connect to money in abundance. And it's always happens pretty easily. Clients find it pretty easily. And so that's the first step, to find a way to connect to money and a way where you can see money as a friend and you can feel money's presence and stuff like that. But the thing about the new money story is I don't have my clients just write down their old money story and then just rewrite it on their own. We spend a lot of time on it, like you said, Lisa, because there's so much deep healing in so many of those old beliefs. And if you just write it out on your own without the healing, your psyche is not going to internalize it.
Right.
It's not going to believe it as true.
Mhm.
So I think it shows a lot of dedication on your part that throughout the coaching container, but the fact that you're still reading your new money story every day. And the reason we do that is because we're reprogramming. However many years it took to create your money beliefs, well, it's going to take a little time to unwind that and release that and then reprogram. And that's where the repetition comes in.
Mhm.
So tell me, what do you think money is now? Because like I hear when you began, there was a lot of like denial of money in general, just like I don't want to think about it or talk about it or look at it. And it's this exclusion thing. I'm excluded from in the money club. And now you have your dove to connect to. What do you think of money? What do you think money is now?
I think money is my best friend and we are like inseparable, and it just flows continuously and allows me to give generously. So there's a reciprocation continuously.
Yeah.
So
And it's so funny because everyone comes to me for money healing for particular reasons. I want to brag on Lisa. One of her big whys is that she loves to give. She wants to be wealthy to give back. So you just couldn't have any higher value than that. Um, yeah. So was there another breakthrough that you wanted to mention, or were those the biggest ones for you?
those were the biggest ones. Like I said, I mean, like just realizing, that I could change it, and I didn't have to get stuck in these old patterns that I had tried so hard before to get rid of, thinking that it was a numbers problem. It was nothing, it had nothing to do with numbers. It had to do with my thought process and the conditioning, the worldview, the conditioning, you know, they say, generational curses. It was just like this curse that was just carried through. Is just like, no, I don't have to abide by this. I can change this pattern. And,
Yeah.
teaching it to my kids now, it's just like, okay, you don't want to have this pattern. Is so many people like, oh, you have to work hard. Well, no, you don't have to work hard. You just have to be smart and know. And if you don't write it down, if you don't know, how can you grow?
Hmm.
So you gave me the tools that I need, and when I get those triggers, I immediately recognize them. It's just like, okay, where is this coming from? And you know,
Yeah.
even now, like I have
Okay.
a dream on my vision board. I want to live on the lake. I want to live on water. I don't know if it's the ocean or the lake. I'm almost
Yeah.
thinking it's a lake. You know, but you know, the market's volatile right now, and there's this and that, and like there's butting heads of like, well, we can't move right now because of, you know, of the market, and houses are too expensive, you know, and this and that. And it's just like, is that true? Like, you know, and I stop and
Okay.
think about it. Like, whereas before it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's not, it's a dream that's not going to happen. And I caught
Mhm.
myself the other day, oh, well, this dream's never going to happen. I'm going to be stuck, you know, living in a snow globe until the day I die. And I've actually pictured myself like living in this house with this beautiful picture windows and the water and, you know, the value of it. It's just like, no, this is something that's going to happen soon.
Yes, girl.
So, and
Yeah.
not having that limited beliefs and not settling.
Yeah. Yeah. Just keep taking the actions and keep envisioning it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So just to kind of close up, like, what are there any other beliefs, like core beliefs that you have, not just about money, but you and money? Like, what are some of the top one or two beliefs that you now have about Lisa and money?
I would say the top two beliefs is that money flows freely and we all have the opportunity to be rich. The only limits we have are what we put on ourselves.
Mhm.
So whatever you say you can't do, you won't do. But when you flip that and you write your new money story, you're going to get those new beliefs. And when you practice it every day and you implement it,
Yeah.
so definitely abundance mindset and knowing that focusing on my, I don't know really how to, the core value is the loyalty to money. So money and I have always been close. We've always been very loyal. It's always, I mean, I made $100,000 a year at my job.
Mhm.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Some of it went to taxes, you know, it got doled out to
Yeah.
whoever needed to have it. But again, when you see the bigger picture, it's like, okay, so it's always been very loyal. I've always respected it and worked very hard, but I never recognized that. So recognizing that true value and knowing that we are best friends and we are hanging out and going back and saying, look at all the things we did together,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And there's so much more coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You've done a lot of hard work, a lot of great healing, and I'm very proud of you. And thank you for doing this interview and sharing your experience. It takes a lot of courage to share your experience. And I hope that this inspires someone today, empowers someone today. And thank you so much for being on this interview.
Yeah, glad to be here, glad to share. And you know, if anyone listening, if you're thinking about, oh, I need help with money, you do. And Heidi's your coach because she's amazing. And the way she's very gentle and the way she walks through you, she just guides you in such a soothing way and helps you see things that you would never see yourself. And you know, like I interviewed tons of coaches and Heidi was just like the perfect one because she has this whole process. She had mentioned a little bit about going through the money guide, and I was skeptical, like, I don't know, that's kind of a little woo-woo for me, but she really gets you to connect with your inner self so that you can get to the root cause of your problem, of whatever that core issue is. So it's beautiful, beautiful process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for listening, and we're going to call it a wrap. So, bye, everybody.